Hello there guys, it's Joey. Welcome back to Working Witch, and this week we will be creating a breaking down barrier powder, a persistence powder with the energies of Gort Ivy. So this was supposed to be last week's, and I will do another Working Witch this week as well, just to keep us rolling over. But this energy really wanted to be made on a Tuesday, and as we venture into the explanation behind each of the ingredients and so on and so forth, it became increasingly apparent as to why it had to be made on a Tuesday. So I picked the ingredients for the persistence powder based on intuition, which is what I always do. And when I looked at what I had picked, and it all started to come together and made sense, and it's just a way of using your initiative and intuition to create a energy web, to really listen to your inner sense, your magical sense, your witch sense if you like. So the herbs that I chose are Gort Ivy, broom, nettle and agrimony. So these are all quite easily accessible in terms of herbs. I also have the blackthorn oil. I have a piece of raw obsidian for imbuing, and I also have my bindweed. This is bindweed on a piece of wheat which I wildcrafted, and I cut the wheat rather than the bindweed so it's whole, and it's a very lovely magical piece that I can use for imbuing. It has a similar energy to ivy in that it helps to overcome and to break down barriers and walls. I was going to say warriors then, that's combining walls and barriers, but never mind. And it's lovely just to add a little bit of something else to the imbuing process, which I will talk about but not record because that's a personal thing. However, if you obviously may not have bindweed or anything like that, and in which case you can use a crystal wand, a wooden wand, your fingers, however you best feel about imbuing. So it turns out that the energies for this breaking down barriers powder were a combination of Mars and Saturn with a little hint of Jupiter. Yeah, and that's why it had to be created on a Tuesday, which is the day of Mars. And it was really interesting to me that the combination of these energies all accumulated in this quite aggressive, forceful warrior energy to really break down what is standing in your way. The Mars energies probably overrule, and they are backed up by Saturn energies and Jupiter energies. I'm going to read to you a little bit from the Herbal Compendium about the combination of such herbs because I found that really interesting. But generally speaking, the Mars energies are quite forceful, quite physical, they get things done, it's quite aggressive, it's quite a warrior-esque energy. It's definitely one of these, I'm going through a really difficult time, I need it to stop, I need to break down these barriers, I need things to change, and I need it to happen right now. I need to, it's serious magical stuff. It's not anything to be doing half-assed basically. And obsidian is also ruled by Saturn as well as fire, although the Book of Stones lists it as earth, but generally speaking it's given a fire correspondence. You could make an argument that it's earth and fire. I don't think I would say it was earth by itself. It's always felt very fire-esque to me, given that it's lava based, so, but there you go. And so obsidian backs up the overall energies of this particular blend. So obsidian might be a little bit too much for some people. It has a very strong energy, it's warrior-esque, it's very forceful, it breaks down barriers, it influences change, it doesn't allow anything to get in the way. It's very Morrigan-esque, that's why it's one of her spear-like energies. It's very warrior in its potency and its power. It's also used for divination, which is the Saturn side of things, and so it helps with a sort of foresight and divination and making things clear to you on a mental level. So that's why we have obsidian in the imbuing bowl. So the reason that we have Saturn energies and a Jupiter energy to back up the Mars energy is the Saturn energy is really about the darkest times, the most difficult times, and overcoming them. It's learning who you are through challenge. People are often quite afraid of Saturn, like they're quite afraid of obsidian. And to me, I'm not afraid of these energies in particular. I don't dread these energies. I think these energies are just part and parcel of a Morrigan life force. And they are just about overcoming all that you can, about basically forging yourself from fire is the image I'm getting through Morrigan right now. And so Saturn works to that end, to that benefit. And it was also the master of magic, so it gives an extra element of imbuing and in creating your own magical energy force to persist, to overcome, to break down barriers. And then Jupiter gives everything a little bit of structure. It's often used in sort of legal energies and rigidity. Rigidity. And that basically gives structure to the energy of the rest of the herbs. So it's not flailing about wildly, it's really giving direction and purpose and structure to the persistence powder. Now you can add anything you want to this persistence powder. I've chosen these 4 herbs and the blackthorn oil as a good base, a good structure from which to start. And if you wish to add other herbs to it to sort of give it even more direction, then you could. So if you were doing something love based and fidelity based, you may add yarrow. If you were doing something money based, you might add basil, and so on and so forth. It's really up to you. But for reference, broom is Mars and air. We do have an element of air going through here, which I failed to mention. I'll talk about that in a second. So Mars and air is broom. Saturn and water is ivy. Nettle is Mars and fire. Agrimony is Jupiter and air. And blackthorn is Mars, Saturn. Mars and Saturn and fire. Now, arguments can be made to add an earth herb, which would ground it down. However, I have left earth out of the equation a little bit. Arguably, you can make arguments for there is an earth energy throughout all of them anyway, because it's herbs and tree oil. But you can make that argument. But if you really wanted an earth-based herb in there just to ground it a little bit, you can. However, for me, that feels a little bit counterintuitive to what the energy of the breaking down barriers is supposed to do, because giving it an earth-based energy can root it in the physical mundane, and you can make arguments for that. However, this to me feels more like one of those fiery, it's basically like a little fireball, and you need things to change, and it needs to be fast, and it needs to be done, and it needs to get done, and it's urgent. So it's earthing it would basically slow down the process a bit. You might want to do that, that's fine. So, you know, it's up to you. Okay, so Mars, air, broom over here. Broom is a purifier, and basically I thought very much about adding this for that sense of purification. Basically, your worst case scenario is going on, your life is going to heck in a handbasket. You need that situation to be purified out, and you also need to clean your own head out. You need to cleanse out that situation. You need to get things changed, get things purified, and that broom is wonderful for that. It's traditional. It's got your whole witchcraft element of the broom, of purifying and using a broom as a purifier, and cleaning out and cleansing your space. And so that's basically the energy going on here with broom. And it has that air energy, which sort of a breath of fresh air through everything else. And it gives a element of, if you need to be speaking, if you need to be vocalizing, and if you need to be using your voice in such a way to get through this situation, then it adds to that. We've got a whole video on Ivy just last week. So it's it's Saturn and water. So it gives you the ability to overcome, to persist, to get through, to break down barriers, and it has that sort of emotional attachment to it to help you get through the emotional hardship of this situation going forth. So nettle then is Mars and fire. Now, nettle was the first one that I really knew I wanted to add, and it's basically, it takes out the sting of the situation. It sort of guides you through a prickly situation and helps you to see the benefit and to really find the use for everything in the situation. But it basically is there just to take the sting out, to take the pain out, to help you get through. And then agrimony is Jupiter and air. So again, it's a cleanser. Again, it adds a little bit of structure. There was something in the Druid Plant Bible I wanted to read about this. Agrimony. An interpretation of agrimony is that it is a dispeller of sorrow used by the Druids. It has a special property of helping people to liberate people from depression and lethargy by eliminating negative energy from their aura and their home. So it basically means that if a situation is getting you down, a situation is harming you, it can help dispel that sorrow, that grief, that depression, which is holding you back and holding a situation in place, because negative emotions and the swamp that they can create in an energy aura can sometimes stop situations from flowing freely and changing the way that they need to. Blackthorn for the oil is an often feared energy because of barriers and challenges. However, it can be used for that exact purpose, to overcome, to persist, to break down. And I really like the image that was used in Witch and Wood's description, which is that the pure of heart could pass through blackthorn. So it keeps that which you really, really don't want out and sort of sets you on the right path. Now I'm going to read to you the combination of Mars herbs with other herbs from the Herbal Compendium, which I loved. Combining the energies of Mars, of course, which are the ones that we are. So we are combining them with Jupiter and Saturn. If one needs to put more energy into generating income or being a better provider of resources, herbs of Mars can be combined with those of Jupiter. So there you go. Discipline and focus can be enhanced by combining herbs of Mars with those of Saturn. This mixture should be used for limited periods of time and balanced with periods during which recreation and pleasures are enjoyed. So there you go. So as I said, this definitely is a powder in which you don't use it for a long time. You use it in the worst case scenario. It's basically when you really, 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 really need the change. You need this powder to blitz through a situation. It needs to change, it needs to be dealt with, it needs to be sorted. So I've ground these herbs right down already. I mean, the broom could possibly be a bit further. I did this mostly with my hands, just to get my energies into it. And as you are working with each particular herb, I would do this before adding them myself in my little bowls, is that you can imbue each with the same crystal that you are going to be adding to your imbuing dish, so you would have a piece of obsidian in each, and leave that overnight, maybe. That's what I would do, and has already been done. And you're basically filling each herb with your energy, and people do this in different ways. People imagine their energy coming from their hands and filling the herb with a particular kind of light. People speak to the spirit of the particular herb. So let's go with broom. So, you know, energies of broom, of air, to clear, to heal, to purify. I ask you to be on my side, or something like that. You know, this is just me instinctually going with it. And I imbue in spirals quite often. I like doing it in spirals. I think it helps, especially given the context of the particular herb, the herb which is basically binding this all together, which is ivy with some blackthorn, of course. Blackthorn binds the herbs very nicely together, being Saturn and Mars. So you then are adding each of your herbs to your mixing bowl. You are filling your herbs with your energy from the handling process. You are visualizing what you want to occur. And this can be as simple as visualizing a wall breaking down, or visualizing a situation that you are in coming to a positive conclusion. And then you're just filling it with your energy as you do each. I'm actually going to put the ivy in last, so we'll go with broom and then agrimony. By doing broom and agrimony first, you can create a sort of purified base. You can add some salt to this as well if you want to purify it out. Salt might be a good idea for a lot of situations. And then your nettle. I'm doing it clockwise. You can do it anti-clockwise if you so wish. I'm actually combining the energy of a clockwise with a waning moon. So the moon is waning right now, which means that we are banishing and using the energies of getting rid, but we are increasing the potency of this particular blend. You could use anti-clockwise imbuing if you so desire, if you wanted to just try and really get rid of something, get rid of a situation. However, the idea behind the breaking down the barrier is to create an energy in which you are taking responsibility for a situation that you know really, really, really needs to change, and you are creating that change. You are making the change happen. You are creating it. Yes, you may be getting rid of a situation or a ongoing problem in the process of that magical creation, but basically by combining this sort of creation process with a waning moon, it means that you are allowing for both, allowing that process to flow for both. Right, okay, so this could be interesting because I meant to get my dropper out rather than do it this way, but because this bottle is slow. Right, I'm going to pause the video and grab my dropper. Okie dokie, so then I will be adding 9 drops of blackthorn. 1, 2, 3. There we go. That's the 9 drops of blackthorn now. 9 is my number of preference because of its symbolism within Celtic mythos, life, death and rebirth, and all of the cycles together. 3 by 3. It's a goddess number. So then you're going to mix it probably with your fingers I'm doing it in a clockwise direction again, as I explained, just to give it a good mixture. And I am imbuing it with my intent as I'm doing that, and I will say words and spells over that off camera. That's personal, so that's entirely up to you how you bring together the spirits of the herb and your guides and or your goddess and or yourself. And you want to charge your crystal within your hands, so you're just sort of requesting aid from, in this case, obsidian, to imbue the powder with the properties of persistence, breaking down barriers. If it were me, I would be calling on Morrigan and the energies within the crystal to not allow the situation to continue, to break down those walls and be forceful in it, you know, in place. And there you go. So there you go, that is how to create, or how I would create, and then I would, I will be invoking pentagram or a spiral with my bindweed and so on and so forth. That is how I would personally create breaking down barrier persistence powder. And it's not a everyday type of use, it really is something for really, really gaining change in your life when it's really, really needed. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. Sorry it's late, it had to be on Tuesday, the powder said so, so there you go. Many blessings.